What's going on YouTube? I decided today to make a video on my 2022 CRF450RL. It's the bike I've been riding in the woods that I've been posting some videos on, and I figured it's time that we make a review video since I just changed the oil. It's got 325 miles on it. It's been a pretty good bike so far. Of course, I haven't, I was a racer as a kid, and then now I decided to go dual sport so I could ride to the woods. It kind of just eliminates the extra step of loading up and going. Having a family, it's easy just to get on the bike, ride 7 miles down to the forest head, and just ride, hit the trails right away. I haven't seen a lot of first-hand reviews. I've seen a lot of magazine reviews where people talk about throttle chop and suspension, and I figured I would just talk about some of those things. I guess first thing starting off, during the break-in time, it did have a lot of hot stalling issues. The bike stalled all the time. In fact, I have videos that I've posted where the bike actually stalled as I was coming off the trail. And I think a lot of that is just when you hit the throttle hard after, like say you're going into a corner, you shut the throttle down and you start to roll into the throttle, that first little tip in, you get a jolt, and it sort of shocks you a little bit. And coming from race bikes where you would come off and hit the throttle, this just isn't as sharp like that. Obviously I would assume that's emissions control, shutting everything down. But I do, as I've ridden it, I've noticed that the throttle chop doesn't go away. It's not that, oh, I've ridden it 300 miles and that throttle issue has gone away that a lot of people have said. What I've noticed is it doesn't stall for me anymore, but I've just become used to not having to do certain things so that I don't get that issue. So I had a couple friends of mine ride it, and both of them said it had hot stalling issues, which it still has. Like I said, I've found a way, or just naturally found a way to just ride out of it, so I don't have that problem anymore. The second thing is it's heavy. I get wore out really fast in the woods. Of course, this is the first bike I've ridden in 15 years, so endurance isn't exactly what it is, especially in the deep whoops. When the whoops get deep in the forest that I ride in, I have noticed I get tired out really fast, and it's also really heavy. So having like an 80-20 tire or 90-10 tire, I've noticed that the type of dirt we have here, these tires are just brutal. They're terrible in the dirt. So if you plan on riding more dirt than you plan on riding street, definitely go full knobby. A DOT knobby, obviously, to stay legal. Some of the other things that have come up, as far as just the bike itself, stock, I haven't touched anything. I've noticed that I'm 230 pounds without gear. With gear, obviously heavier. I've noticed that the rear suspension on this is wildly soft. Being a dual sport, I assumed it was going to be soft. And I still ride it. It's not like it's unrideable. Now, if you're doing fast trails and you weigh this much, you might have an issue. I do a lot of whoops, and I do notice every once in a while that I will get a kick from being so far in the stroke on the rear shock. I'm going to address that in the winter. Right now I'm riding it, just kind of trying to have fun with it, get used to the things that I like and don't like. But the rear spring definitely needs to be bumped up, and I will probably do some suspension work coming through the winter. The forks are okay. I mean, they hold up. There's a lot of deflection. Like when you start getting into multiple whoops, instead of actually having it soak it up, a lot of times I'm too far in the stroke. I'll hit really hard and I'll get a bounce. Once again, all that stuff is expected from my perspective as far as what I was getting when I bought the dual sport. Other than that stuff, I'd have to say it's a fun bike to ride. It's not exactly a rocket ship. I haven't ridden any modern 450s and 250s, but I'd say this is every bit as strong as my old 426. I had a 2001. bikes are way different now. Obviously, they're lighter, they're faster. But I think that going through the winter, try to do an ECU, exhaust, get the suspension done and shed some weight. All that stuff I'm going to document. Not a lot of 450L people or RL people have documented anything they've done. I've seen a few people here and there on some of the forums and Reddit and things, but nobody has really, weighed it live. I couldn't find anything like that. I couldn't find any real videos on it. There is a couple people that do ride on it, but they're less concerned about the technical things, which for me the technical things are kind of big because there's some really big competitors like the Husky, the KTM, that are on paper better dual sports than this. I went with a Honda. We have a Honda dealer really close to here. I grew up with Japanese manufacturers, so I chose to go that route instead of from a dealer that's about 30-40 minutes away, and I'm not too familiar with the product. So to get back in, I went with the Honda. Again, I haven't ridden the 501S or the 525, so I don't have much to compare to, but I will be doing modifications throughout the winter. Each modification I do, I will weigh it before and after so that you can kind of see what each little modification does for weight, and because weight being the biggest factor, because this is really heavy compared to the Austrian counterparts. But other than that, it's been super reliable. I've had no problems. I just changed the oil. Like I said, I'm at 325 miles. And to be honest with you, it wasn't very dirty at all. A lot of people were saying I'll change it to 200, change it to 400. I figured I'll change it to 325. The weather was kind of crappy, so I decided to do it. And then, yeah, the oil came out really clean, much cleaner than I would imagine it to. So, yeah, we'll leave you with some riding footage, and then as we start the upgrades, I'll post videos accordingly. And anybody has any other questions, leave a comment. I'll answer anything I have. So we'll catch you on the next one.